What I've found is I ordered some of these 90-degree SMA connectors. So instead of having a straight on, it's going to go 90-degree off the board. And that allows you to do what I've done here. And I actually mounted it straight in. So I just cut the hole for the heat sink, glued it straight to it. It has a 90-degree, and that way the antenna just goes right on there. So it makes a nice compact design, or I guess install, not design. So that's here in this mini AR wing. And again, I've done the same thing in this Nano Goblin, where I put the 90-degree on there. And you can see also I've taken, excuse me, taken the connector off, and I soldered the wires directly to the pads. I did that on this one also. This one I actually also put a piece of wire and soldered it to the ground pads just to try and give it a little extra relief. This plane, I actually had the canopy pop off on a landing, and it pulled the wires out of this connector. So I decided to go ahead and solder it on and also add that little extra, and I put some glue to hold it in. I have these both held in with E6000. I've tried using hot glue in the past, and that ends up obviously melting as it gets hot. Okay, so we've got all our stuff we need here. We've got some flush cuts, obviously our VTX. We're gonna pull this harness off for now. Our 90-degree SMA, some solder wick, and a soldering iron with a rather large tip. So what I'm gonna do first is try to get some of this solder off these guys. You don't need to get all of it off because we're gonna end up cutting it. It's just gonna make it a little easier if we clean up some of it. Okay, that should work. So what we're gonna do to get this guy off of here is just flush cut the legs and the center conductor. Now be careful, this guy does get a little warm from putting heat in it. So now we should be able to go in and just applying heat and get the legs off. Always use a nice sponge.
This doesn't look too good, Patrick.
Leave the center conductor on there for right now. Okay, so we got those cleaned up. If we put this on here, what we have to do is pay attention to which way, when we put this on here, how is that center pin gonna line up? So I don't know if you can see here. Right now, if I put this up against, so that these top legs are against the board, that puts our center pin in line with that other center pin. That's how we want it. So I know that I want that up. You want to make sure, I've got like a 10 pack of these, so it's not too big of a deal right now. But if you only got one for some reason, you want to make sure you do this right the first time. I have done it backwards and needed to go cut a second one off. But we wanted to go, I'm trying to go up. So I'm going to go ahead and knock this center conductor off for now. When we solder this back up, you have to make sure that that center conductor has a good connection. We're going to line up these two on the board, and then so that way that pin is lined up. But as you notice, the other two corner pins are just floating out in the air. So what we're gonna do is cut those off. Now, since we don't have those, we still wanna have the, okay, so remember that part where I was saying about make sure you've got the direction right? Well, I don't, because I want it to stick up and I just cut off the wrong pins. So we're gonna take this guy off of here, put this guy on here. And now, since I know this one is wrong, I'm going to cut off the opposite pins so I don't make the same mistake. So now, those two will line up on there, and that aligns our center pin. Try to position this so it's best for the camera, so making it fun. This is just another example of do as I say, not as I do. I almost soldered it the wrong way. So I'm going to flip that over, which actually works out a little bit nicer for this access on this side. So to start, If you can see that, I'm only soldering on this one leg real quick. And then what I'm gonna do is flip it over and look. And if you can see there, this pin is actually aligned perfectly. So if the pin was to the side, then I only did the one leg, so that way, because if you do two, it's hard to heat both of them up to move it. So I got lucky this time that I lined it up perfectly. So now what I'm going to do is go ahead and heat up this leg. I'm going to put some solder on and heat it up, or well, solder it down, and then I'll go back and do the other one. We're going to just go ahead and put the solder tip here and just feed some solder, and then hopefully you can see that in focus. It's made that kind of L shape. So now the key part of all this is making sure that I get the center conductor to have a good connection. And looks like it got it first try.
First try?
First try.
First try? First try.
So hopefully you can see this. The arc here on the corner, on that corner, a nice solder through there. I'm gonna take this antenna off, it'll make it easier. And then these nice pads here. So now that guy is on there, like you said, with this antenna on. It's pretty solid on there. Obviously you don't want to put too much pressure on it because you will snap it. Now the next thing I like to do is take this off and solder the wires directly to it. The best way, I guess, I've kind of found to do this is just using flush cut and just kind of breaking this housing. And as you go, I have had issues where, you can see this pin's starting to pull up a little bit. You don't want to cause any damage to these pins if possible. The pads, I guess that is. So I haven't found a great way. Like I said, I'm just using these flush cuts because that's what has been working. But you just want to go slowly. Don't try and rip it off all at once. You got these two ground pads over here on the sides. Cut those off and then just kind of slowly go through. So try not to do too much at once. So it looks like all my pads are still okay there. I might be able to get this plastic piece out. Okay, perfect. Okay, so now we've got the pads, and we'll go ahead and we're going to clean them up, and we will cut our harness and get it ready to put on here. We need our power in, ground, video. We're going to skip this black and red, that's the power out, but I'm not going to use that, and then our UART control. So I'm going to, what I'll actually do is cut this off with just a little bit of wire, so that way I can keep an eye on the order just in case I would forget. So now I got the tip warmed up. We're going to go ahead here and clean these up. Okay, so now we got those all cleaned up. We'll go ahead and solder these wires on. Like I said, I'm going to start right to left. Just depends on how you, if you're left-handed or right-handed. Of course, when you do stuff on camera, your hands just don't want to work, and everything that normally flows nicely doesn't want to work for you. Power. ground, video, then all the way over to the end for UART control. So that's how I take one of these AKK X2 with SMA. I think Wolf Whoop also calls it the Q1, I believe it is. The same VTX, just different names. The $15 VTX, it works great. I have had zero issues with these guys, and other than when I've smashed them up and things, but it's good VTX. This is a great way to do it. And we can put it in your plane, have it stick in the antenna right there. Nice solid connection. It works really well. I've actually gone with the one in my mini AR wing. This VTX I've done 3 miles. So on 5.8, 800 milliwatt with just this and a immersion RC right hand patch. So yeah, hope that helps somebody out there. If you have any questions about it, comments, leave them down below, please. Subscribe, like, and keep an eye out for the video where I'll be installing this guy into my Reptile S800. Hope you enjoyed. Bye.